Donald Trump is now threatening to blow up Oman as he has gone from no new wars to eager to start his next one. Now, this was today at the White House during a cabinet meeting, which was really nothing more than a glaze fest for Donald Trump. And during the question and answer portion, he was asked about Iran and Oman working together to control the Strait of Hormuz, and this is what he said.
It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, and we'll have to blow them up. They understand that.
Yep, that's the answer. We'll just have to blow him up. That is Donald Trump's answer. I am here to tell you he has gone from no new wars to constantly looking for another one because he has become drunk with the power of the U.S. military. Between him and Hegseth, they both have this lust for the power it holds, and it is mighty. Make no mistake about it. Look, just think about the B-2 bomber that he loves to have the little model on his desk, and he loves to talk about it and how it was used during Operation Midnight Hammer. This guy is completely gone, and this is the worst case scenario for a president of the United States.
Donald Trump has just threatened to blow up Oman over the Strait of Hormuz. At what point did it become normal for us to threaten our regional allies for exercising their own sovereignty? And how is this not a declaration of war? US President Donald Trump threatened to attack Oman today, one of our key regional allies, if it agreed to work with Iran to impose transit fees on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz as part of a plan to end the US-Israeli war against the country. Iran has been pressing for its right to enact a toll on the strait as part of any deal to end the war. And Oman, who sits directly across the Gulf as the only other country with territorial waters in the strait, suggested a deal in which toll proceeds would be split between the two countries. So Iran would still get to enact the tolls, but it wouldn't fully financially benefit from them. Because Oman is a key regional mediator, one that has defense contracts, security cooperation, and a free trade agreement with the US, meaning those funds would likely come back to benefit the US in the end anyway. But instead, Donald Trump's response was, behave or else we're going to have to blow you up. Again, one of our key allies, and Donald Trump has now threatened them. This makes Oman the 15th country that Donald Trump has directly threatened. Whatever happened to the president that was going to end all wars? He's now instigating new wars with our allies. Call me crazy, but that sure doesn't sound like a no new wars president to me.
So the issue with Oman, okay, the president today threatening to blow up Oman, key U.S. ally, as we laid out, right? Blow him up. Did that sudden threat out of nowhere surprise you at all?
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I suppose we are not shocked by anything Donald Trump says these days, but this one is pretty shocking. As you've pointed out, Oman is a long-time ally of the United States. I think we have a friendship agreement with Oman going back to 1833, if I'm correct. And what signal does this send to the other Gulf states that regard themselves or have regarded themselves as U.S. allies? So if you step out of line with the United States and the United States threatens to blow you up, I think this is all part of what we're seeing right now, which is the Gulf states, which were reliant on the United States, have now decided the United States is not trustworthy. And what they're going to start doing is what Oman is doing, is cut a deal with Iran. They're all going to cut deals with Iran.
Okay, so on that, the Gulf states, Trump said tonight that the Gulf countries owe it to us. Those are his words, quote, owe it to us, end quote, to sign on to the Abraham Accords, which at their core, of course, are about normalizing the Muslim Gulf Arab states' relations with Israel. You think that demand is extraordinary. How come?
Well, I mean, the fact is, this war has destroyed the Abraham Accords. The idea that after what's happened, where basically Iran has won, Israel is on the losing side. Israel has shown, by the way, reckless disregard for the interests of its supposed allies in the Gulf, and they concede that. And so what is happening right now is that the Gulf states are abandoning the United States and looking for other supporters.
So when we look at you heard the threat against Oman, right? And then I played some of the ones against, and I won't even be able to list them all here off the top of my head, but Greenland, Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Cuba, 1 in 13 countries in the world, according to Aaron Blake's analysis, have been Trump has threatened to either attack, seize, or take over. Does this have consequence?
Of course it does. I mean, right now, look at what the United States is doing. On the one hand, the United States is withdrawing its security guarantees to its allies. We are pulling our forces out of Europe and we are abandoning NATO and made it very clear we're not going to defend them. We've also made it pretty clear that we are, maybe not going to be supporting Taiwan the way we used to. And in general, are not as opposed to China as we were alleged to be before. And that means that our Asian allies now can't rely on us. So that's on the one hand. And on the other hand, we're looking like an aggressive imperialist power that can't wait to invade another country. So what is the world to make of that? What it sees is what you could call a rogue superpower. We've got enormous strength, but we are not using that strength in the service of a world order. We're not using that strength in the interest of stability. We're using that strength in the interest of grabbing land, grabbing oil, grabbing money. It's really quite a shameful situation for the United States to be in.
All right, let's get to President Trump threatening to, quote, blow up a U.S. ally. Ian Panel is on the ground in Jerusalem. He's following the conflict for us. Ian, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, dude, this is a longtime ally of the United States. Why would Trump be threatening to blow up Oman?
Yeah, I think that shocked everyone, not least the people of Oman. Why was it mentioned? Well, because Iran had suggested that even if there is some kind of deal to end the war, that the control of the Strait of Hormuz would be run by Iran and Oman. And obviously, the president reacted badly to that. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. It's not great diplomacy, to say the least. He's also trying to put pressure on Saudi Arabia, Qatar and other countries to sign the Abraham Accords, which is basically normalization of relations with Israel, something those countries are saying, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense. Why, just because you launched a war against Iran, do we then have to sign this normalization deal with Israel? So there's a lot of traditional friends and allies in the region are deeply unhappy with this war, not least because they received a lot of the incoming fire and also now these threats from the president.
Yeah, Ian, speaking of allies, people are wondering, is Kuwait also under attack? What's going on over there?
Yeah, well, actually, it was attacked today. It was a US base that was fired upon by the Iranians. And again, look, we've been talking about the ceasefire that's been underway pretty much since early April. And yet there have been a number of points at which we've been talking about an exchange of fire. Now, we've seen the US launch 2 strikes this week against Iranian military facilities in the south of the country. The Iranians said that they would retaliate, calling it a gross violation of the ceasefire. And sure enough, that's what happened. Now, the attack on Kuwait was intercepted, and there have been other lower level strikes appearing to come from Iraq, from Iranian backed groups there. But I think it just speaks to the fragility of this ceasefire and how, although substantially it does still hold, it's far from a perfect peace.
Yeah, you mentioned the fragility. What does it mean for the ceasefire moving forward between the U.S. and Iran?
Yeah, again, I mean, how many times have we now been saying a ceasefire is about to be extended or a deal is about to be announced? In actual fact, the answer is about 4 or 5 times over the last few weeks. And we're now at that stage again, US officials telling Axios, Associated Press and others that they think a deal is pretty much there, or at least an interim agreement. It just needs a signature of President Trump and also Mujtaba Khamenei, the new supreme leader in Iran. Now, the Iranians on state media or semi-official state media are already pushing back on that, saying the details have not been finalized, and we just have to wait and see. And I think it's important for people to remember that what we're looking at here is not an actual final deal to end the war. It's pushing back the ceasefire by another 60 days, possibly lifting some of those restrictions in the Strait of Hormuz, which you and I keep talking about, and the withdrawal of the US naval blockade. But those key sticking issues, the reasons that apparently we went to war in the first place, i.e. Iran's nuclear program, well, that is up for discussion at some later date. So this is really kicking the whole thing into the long grass.
Yeah, for real. And you mentioned the Strait of Hormuz. Ian, we couldn't be chatting if I didn't bring up the Strait. A lot of searches about it still, and people are wondering about a potential aluminum shortage now. First it was oil, then it was fertilizer. Now we're talking aluminum.
Yeah, I mean, this is a key global commercial waterway, and it isn't just oil, it isn't just fertilizer that goes through there. I imagine most people were Googling, what is the Strait of Hormuz, or where is it, right at the start of the war. Now people want to know what's actually going on there, and that commercial shipping is still not flowing. What's happened with aluminum prices is they've gone up something like 40 to 45% this year, almost reaching a 4-year high, and that, of course, is going to have an impact on consumers. Why? Well, partly because of this squeeze on the Strait of Hormuz, where you're not seeing the shipping flowing through as normal, but also because we've seen the Iranians deliberately target things like aluminum smelters in the Gulf region. For example, Emirates Global Aluminum has suffered damage to one of its smelters, and it's saying it's going to take at least a year for that to come back online. And I think many people had warned that this was the risk of starting a war with Iran, that it would have economic consequences. And it's not just simply a case of saying, okay, we've signed a deal, the waterway is open, the oil will flow, gas prices will go down. It ain't that simple. Price is going to be high across the board.
Is the Trump administration telling us the truth when they say that the Strait of Hormuz is in international waters? The answer is no, which is why Donald Trump today is now threatening to blow up Oman.
The strait's going to be open to everybody. It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Now this gets a little interesting because when I saw this, the Strait of Hormuz is not international waters. It falls under the territorial waters of Iran and Oman. The strait is not wide enough to contain an international water zone. When I first saw this, I said, really? And here's a little more in-depth explanation of what international waters are. So is what Trump said really true? The answer is no. The Strait of Hormuz at its narrowest point is approximately 21 nautical miles wide, fully covered by the overlapping 12 nautical mile territorial seas of Iran and Oman, leaving no high seas corridor. Legally, it is an international strait used for navigation where coastal states retain sovereignty over the waters as territorial seas, but ships enjoy rights of passage, transit passage under UNCLOS, or innocent passage per Iran's position as a non-ratifier. This post accurately corrects the imprecise label of international waters applied to the strait itself. The waters remain under Iranian and Omani territorial sovereignty while being subject to the unimpeded international navigation rights. And Donald Trump knows that, and that's why he wants to also blow up Oman as well. So there we have it. Dozy Don tried to brainwash us Americans into believing that the Strait of Hormuz is in international waters. Wow, does this man ever stop lying?
Guys, this is major breaking news from Iranian war. Donald Trump is set to strike the country called Oman. Guys, I want to ask Donald Trump, is this war going to be a world war? Is this war not enough? Is Donald Trump not tired of striking or blowing hot on countries? Does it mean other countries, they don't have their own right, or I don't know how to put it, just to exercise? Because a lot of people, this is the question they are dropping for Donald Trump on the comment section. Are you not tired of this war? Are you going to turn this war into a world war? This is the question people are asking Donald Trump. You would have watched this video to this moment. Let me know your honest thoughts, your opinion in the comment box. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and turn your bell notification for more updates. Remember that this is Global Update with Destiny. I will see you guys in my next update.